Small Business Saturday.
Welcome to Small Business Saturdays video series with your host and my husband.
And my dad, Aaron Montgomery.
Join the conversation.
Let's talk some business.
All right, everybody, welcome into Small Business Saturdays. My name is Aaron Montgomery, and you can find me over at oursuccessgroup.com. So I'm excited today. I know I say that almost every time, and I am excited every time. So that's kind of fun. But, you guys know that we talk a lot of mindset on here, a lot of kind of just conversations with me and the folks that are tuned in live a lot of times. And we get into some of that. We talk some business specifics from time to time. Sometimes I bring in videos of my mentor, Jack Canfield. A couple of weeks ago, I had a guest on. I had Liz joining, and today I've got another special guest joining, somebody that is a near and dear friend of mine, and also now a new partner in a project that we've got going on. Hopefully you guys have heard about that, the Radical Goal Getters, and I'm sure we'll talk about it. In fact, I'll probably play a little promo video for it here in just a second, just to make sure you guys understand what that's all about. But I'm excited to talk to Addie today. We're going to talk about achieving radical goals together. And I want to make sure that we highlight that together part and how important that is, because to achieve anything worthwhile, you guys have heard me say this many, many times, where I will argue with anybody for as long as it takes to prove the fact that success is a team sport, period. There's no question about that in my mind. You cannot change my mind about that. Success is a team sport. And so if that's the case, right, and I'm saying it is, if that's the case, then what is it that we need to do to, make the right team, right? We need to get together to be able to achieve anything worthwhile. And so that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about all sorts of things around that. And if you guys have questions or things for Addie or for myself, please jump in there and do that. But before I bring Addie in here, as I said, I wanted to show you a little bit about this new project that Addie and I are working on. And it'll change colors here real quick, because I want to play this for you guys. And then we will come back and get Addie in here, and then we'll be ready to go. Are you a small business owner or coach feeling trapped in a cycle of stagnation and uncertainty? Welcome to the Radical Goal Getters, where we facilitate transformative mastermind groups for tenacious individuals like you. Reserve your spot in a powerful 6-month mastermind program led by certified Success Principles coaches. The Radical Goal Getters mastermind groups offer a supportive environment, expert guidance, collaborative learning, and accountability. Radical Goal Getters also provides a private, asynchronous messaging system allowing you to connect with fellow group members, share resources, ask questions, and get support 24/7. Visit radicalgoalgetters.com for more information. Ready to transform your goals into reality? There are 5 available time slots, and each group is limited to the first 6 people who apply. Unleash your radical potential and accomplish what you've never thought possible. Visit radicalgoalgetters.com to reserve your spot now by applying today. The groups will start the week of August 7th, so get your seat at the table today. Did I mention today? Do it today. Go today. All right, I think I covered that a little bit, maybe a little too much, but all right. So check that out. We're going to talk about using these skills and kind of what we're going to the foundation of what Radical Goal Getters is all about. But we're going to talk today about how you guys can also implement this in your life and whatnot. So without further ado, I would like to bring in my special guest, Addie, and let's see if I can get this right. I got to hit the right buttons. There we go. Let's try that button. Hey, Addie, how are you?
Hi, I'm great. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you spending some time with me on a Saturday here. I know that's not always a great time for everybody, because we want to, have a little downtime on a Saturday, but this is exciting for me. So thank you so much for doing this.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Yeah. So Addie, start off by telling the Small Business Saturdays listeners here, give us the Addie 101 and maybe even how you and I connected.
Yeah, sure. So, Addie 101. Let's see. She's a crazy lady. That's what most people.
Awesome crazy. Awesome crazy is what that is. Yeah.
Yeah, well, so I am the CEO for two organizations actually. So my full-time job, and a job I absolutely love, is as CEO of the American Alliance of Orthopedic Executives, and that's a membership organization. It's a national membership organization, and I've been there for 13 years, 14 years, something. But I love it. And then second, and where we're partnered through, is I'm CEO of Little Radical Changes, and it's just a little bit of a name shift if anyone knew the Radical Change Group from before. So yep, I mean, I don't know, that's my day-to-day. I mean, my day-to-day I love. It's membership, strategy, governance, all those kinds of things. And then Little Radical Changes actually started in 2020, just wanting to put some good back in the world, and learning how to I don't know, just really wanting to have some purpose that was really structured to put some good, positive love, support, and encouragement out into the world. So
awesome. Well, talk to me a little bit more about that then. What is, kind of give us that big picture of what the passion is, right? Like what gets you up in the day? What gets you excited? You know, why would you say, I'm going to do this with Aaron? That crazy guy over there, right? what checks the box for you?
Yeah. Okay. So I will answer that, but I forgot to say how you and I connected, which is actually through Virtual Skills Bootcamp.
That's right.
So if you're unfamiliar, any of the listeners are unfamiliar with the Canfield, Jack Canfield.
Yep.
He's probably most well known for Chicken Soup for the Soul. Or what did you want to say?
No, you're good. I'm pointing at stuff that I'm not actually pointing at. So
the certification, I got it. The medallions.
Yeah.
So they have Jack Canfield has a 3-step certification for teaching his work out in the world. And so one of that steps is virtual boot camp, which is really a boot camp in learning how to write and deliver and create presentations on the work, the success principles. So we met in that class, and it was awesome. And we just connected right from the start. I think we have similar energy and really similar passion for, helping, really, that servant mentality. So so that's how we met. And then Little Radical Changes, and why I am super excited to be partnering with you is because throughout my 3 years of earning my certification with the Canfield Group, a big part of that was masterminds that I joined as, after Breakthrough to Success or things like that. They had momentum masterminds. And of course, a lot of the different programs encourage you to create masterminds of your own to carry on the work. So I've been involved in masterminds for most of those 3 years. And I have been involved in personal development and professional development like probably since I was 20, I would say. So it's a lot of years before I getting involved in the Canfield world. And I have to say that the masterminds were the most impactful in making progress, in making actual progress, in achieving things, in making things happen, and creating that community. And I think one of the things I loved this about Tony Robbins, actually. He would always say, I'm sure you got it from somebody else, but it's you are the sum of the 5 people you spend the most time with. And I went to Tony Robbins events for years, and he would always say, you've got to up level those 5 people. You've got to be looking for people that are going to stretch you. His example was always, take Serena Williams. Do you want to get, or it was a tennis thing, but are you going to make more progress with Serena Williams across the court from you, or with your next door neighbor across the street, across the net from you? Right. And it's so, but I would always say, how do you find those friends though? How do you find them? And the masterminds is where I found those friends. And you're definitely one of my best friends from that process. And I think what's cool is that we're friends, and we help each other move along in our goals and our dreams. And we talk families, and we talk all kinds of things. So it's a wonderful way to, I think, just bring in more people that are in that headspace that you want to be in.
Yeah. Yeah. I kind of feel like I'm a bobblehead doll over here because you're just talking. I'm going, yep, 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 yep. Agree. So I apologize for that. But yeah, I think that's such a so cool, right? Like, yeah, where do you find those friends? And when you start intentionally surrounding yourself with people in a program like a mastermind, because it's really hard to go wrong in in that kind of an environment, right? We get into a mastermind because we want more for ourselves. We want more for our community. We want more for the people around us, family, whatever that is for each person. And when you do that, you're now putting yourself with people that want that same type of thing. And when everybody's working in that upward momentum, it's just incredible. And I want to talk to you a little bit about all of the mastermind stuff here in just a second, but I'm going to just quickly share too, because you and I have been masterminding together. What's it been, about a year, 2 years?
At least, I think.
It
might be 2 years.
Yeah, I was going to say, maybe it is 2 years. Time flies when you're getting, when everybody's dealing with COVID, right? I think that's what kind of when it started. But so for me, I've made such huge progress that I never thought I would make. And I'm really lucky to have, my wife is a success principles trainer. I have people around me just kind of naturally that have been a very positive influence on me, but I wasn't making the progress because I didn't have anybody holding me accountable. And I think that was one of the big things that really stood out to me with Addie was, like she said, I if I remember right, there was kind of like this hey, just this is what's going to happen kind of meeting that we all got together to with virtual skills. And it was kind of an optional. And there weren't a whole lot of people. I think the whole group was like 50 people. I think at that thing, there was like 10 of us. And I'm like looking around going, okay, these are the people that I want to be around because A, they're here early. And so that means they really want it. And B, the energy in that event was just really cool. And I immediately was like, oh my gosh, Addie's like, she's going to change the world literally. And so I want to be on that wave. Right. And, and so anyhow, so just to really quickly finally finish my point here though. So masterminding with Addie, I've got my book out. I mean, I'm like just flabbergasted that I get to say that, right. That yes. I'm an author. And, that's just one of the accomplishments that I've been able to make over the last 2 years. And I, again, like I said, very blessed. My wife's always very supportive of everything that I do, even when I'm crazy. I missed our date night last night because I was working on something, and I got to make it up to her tonight. I promise I will.
Very good. Very nice.
So I've got all that, but again, the progress was like, and it really did come down to that accountability, right? I knew you weren't going to be mad at me necessarily, but I also knew that I had said to you, hey, I'm going to do this. And not that you were even going to act let down or even say anything. You probably would have encouraged me, but I'm like, I've got to get that done for myself and for my mastermind group, for Addie and everybody else, and for Deb and Lorraine. And Brian when he was with us early on. So anyhow, that was kind of my story. Now, you've done some pretty cool things. I mean, and on all sorts of different levels too. So the one story that stands out a lot to me from kind of when I first met you were my example of here's somebody that gets messes and incompletes, right? you get it, right? So, we'll just say hello to Tanya. Tanya's checking in here. So happy Saturday to you.
Hi, Tanya.
Yeah. So I appreciate you being there. Tanya, share this with other people if you get a chance, right? Okay. So give us that story. Tell us a little bit about that, kind of how it led up to it, and then what you were able to accomplish and what the mastermind did for you to get through that. I'm trying not to give away the whole story in advance here.
Yeah. No, first, thank you so much. You're so kind. That's the one thing I love about masterminding with you, because you are very gentle and kind in your feedback, but it's good feedback. So thank you. And then the messes and incompletes, I think, I will say, really scared me at the front, because it's writing down the exercise, write down all the things that aren't done across any avenue of your life. And we were encouraged to think about not just things like bills that weren't paid, or things that weren't fixed in the house, or cleaned up or decluttered, but also relationship stuff, which I'd never even thought about that. Like, do you have a relationship that's hanging out there and you're just kind of like, I hope that they don't text me again, or that you wanted them to text you, but you didn't want to reach out. You like, both ways, positive and negative, but really looking at it from the full scope of our lives, spirituality, mental health, just all those different, wellness, just all those different things. What were the things that you needed to get done? And so I did that exercise and wrote down a bunch of things. And I think what we had to do was pick kind of like the area that we had the most listed in. And mine was house. And I had just that was, I don't know, probably 21, I think, because that was, COVID year. So for me at the American Alliance for Orthopedic Executives, that was a turbulent year. I had to flip our in-person 1,000-person meeting to a virtual. We had 6 weeks to do it. So it wasn't I didn't do it by myself. I had a team that did a fantastic job of doing that flip. And then from there, it was just, we were working 7 days a week. It was like most people were having a struggling time. I used to, just as an aside, I always get so frustrated because people are like, I'm so bored. I'm going to learn how to bake bread. And I'm like, I don't even have time to sleep.
Here, I've got work for you. Come here.
Right? Yes, I could use some help. But that was my experience in that year, or 2 years. But, in choosing the home, there was just so much. We had lived in the house for, I think, 10 years or so at that point, 8 to 10 years. And I really hadn't done a thing. I hadn't painted a room, nothing. And so just this list, lights that needed to be replaced. The garage was stacked, not even to the point it was in my pictures, but it was stacked. We couldn't park the cars in there. I had holes in walls and doors. I had paint that was peeling. I had carpet that was just rough, and just all the piles that you create. And well, not everybody does. I certainly am a pile maker. So it was like, this is the stuff I need to go through, and this is the stuff I need to throw away. But I would just have all these piles everywhere and just collect things. Every surface was full of stuff. My closet was full of stuff. It was just really, I just never let anything go. So a bit of a pack rat for sure. But in the mastermind that I joined, and did this exercise in, we were encouraged to just take a part of it to get started, or even just start small, kind of like the baby step mentality. And I know until I started in this environment, I was really an all or nothing. Like, either I can spend 2 days without sleeping and do it all, or I can't even start. But the encouragement there was to commit to something every 2 weeks. So the mastermind meant every couple of weeks, and we had the daily things. And so I started just very small with doing the things that were free, and only took my manpower, like cleaning, organizing. And I had buildup, and my bathrooms were awful. The corners were awful. I did not like to vacuum, like to do any of that. So, and some of it was just replacing light bulbs. So doing that process. So I went through that process. What was awesome was the support I had. So I, at the time, was married, and he definitely helped me with the process. But it was really easy as it is to be like, I don't really feel like doing that today. And he'd be like, I don't feel like doing it either. And so then you don't do it. But when I started committing in the mastermind space, just like you said, you have committed it publicly, and you want to make that happen. You want to you report out. It's just, I think, who we are, right? As people, we want to be like, make that. And really, you do want to make the progress, or you wouldn't have set the goal in the first place. So
you want to get the gold star, right? We got as kids, right? Get the gold star. Sorry.
No, that's exactly what it is. So that's what I think really helped keep me going, was that positive, continuous reinforcement. And I just love my mastermind partners, because it was a bigger group than what we're doing. It was just on a bigger scale, because it was Jack's mastermind. But what I loved is, it didn't matter if I could post every day. I did my 15 minutes. I did my 15 minutes. I did my 15 minutes. And I would get people that would say, that's amazing. That's awesome. Well done. Way to go. There's just so much positive reinforcement. And so that was, that helped me go through, I think all in, it was probably 6 to 8 month process. And it really, I did all the things that need to be done in my house, the painting, some of the carpet replaced, the floors refinished. And that was at the end because that I had to save up for and make sure we could afford it. But that was like that whole process. And then at the end, I posted this yesterday, maybe, as my my garage before and after pictures. And it's so embarrassing, but
no, it's so cool.
It's good because I have the other side of it. So there's something to think about. Like if you have a project like that, it might be completely embarrassing to take that before picture, kind of like when we want to do weight loss. And I've done so many different weight loss things. And the before pictures are just so hard. It's like, oh, I don't want anybody to see this. But the best part is nobody has to.
That's right.
You just take that picture so that when you get to the other side, you have that after picture and you can really see the difference, which then to me, I was like, how did we do that? Like, how did that all get done? But it was through the power of the masterminds. And I was in a few different ones throughout that entire journey. And it would waver. Like, it's not like it was the done and then done forever. I definitely would go back every month or couple months and revisit. Oh, let me run around the house and do a quick cleanup. But it wasn't where it had been before, where you're just not, there's so much you don't even notice it anymore. It's taking up all these things. And then when you start looking, you're like, how have I not even noticed that hole there, or that door doesn't close, or that leaky faucet or whatever. And it was, I will say too, well, you might ask this, but I will say too, the biggest thing I felt after finishing that wasn't just the accomplishment, because the accomplishment, it's a moment, right? It's a big moment, but but what I noticed was that it freed up like my whole being for other stuff. Yeah. Because my mind and my heart, my soul weren't all taken up with all these things, these mundane chores that I were in my to-do list and heavy on my shoulders. So once that was all done, guess who opened up and had time for crafting, or felt like they had more time to follow other endeavors, or to write a story for a book, to actually take on a project like that, which before that, I wouldn't have even approached it. I would have been like, I do not have time. Yeah. So, that freeing up of my whole soul, which is a little woo-woo, I know, but it really, it's unexplainable, I think, to like, it's just this whole weight that you feel. And I want everybody to experience that feeling.
Yeah. So, I mean, we talk about that inside of a business environment a lot too, with people. Is like, you are not feeling like you're successful. You can't get ahead, but yet you're busy, right? You're really busy. Yes. What if you were to just, I mean, heck, half the time you just need to fire some customers. People are like, wait a second, how's my business going to grow by firing customers? I'm like, fire the customers and watch, because it's that space, right? It's that space that you get to do better things, to do more things, to do things that really you're passionate about, as opposed to dealing with some customer that you dread, getting the phone call from, right? Or something like that. And so,
well, that's your team too. I mean, they're all morale busters at the end of the day. And when you're not feeling good in what you're doing, when you are afraid of the number to come through the phone, personal or professional, that's the time to go, I need to do something. That's an incomplete right there, right? Because that's not fulfilling. That's not that fulfilling place you want to be in a business, because nobody starts a business to be busy. Yeah. People start businesses for many, many reasons. And I don't think, I bet 90% of the time it's not even the money. Nope. It is what the money provides. Yeah. So, and having people like that involved in it, partners, whatever, that's an incomplete. You cut it and you move on. And it might be hard for a moment because you've got to hire or find new clients or whatever that might be, but your energy's back. Because they're not stealing it anymore.
That's right. So, the energy vampires. Yep. Yes, I love that. Wow. What a great story. And I love that you brought up that last point too, because I think that does get lost, right? We get to that, finish line result, right? We celebrate. That's awesome. Mm-hmm. But like you said, that's a moment. It's what's the value of that result that then you can carry on to. It's like I hear this a lot with like Olympic athletes, for example. They get to that point, and even if they win the gold medal, that day after, that week after, right, when all the stuff's kind of died down, they're like, what do I do now, right? And so, and we do that with our goals. We get to that goal, and then we go, well, what do we do now? well,
Yeah.
it's, you want to keep this going, right? I call it a turning point goal myself. It's where I want it. Okay, now I can realize that I've kind of can maybe cruise a little bit, right? I still need to keep moving forward, but I don't have to kind of have all that effort. So anyhow, okay, here's another thing that I wanted to point out. And
I agree with you though, by the way.
Okay, sorry. Good. I figured that was it. I know you well enough that I figured you. All right. So here's another thing I want to talk about. And I'm not sure. I think this is one thing that you might not even recognize because you do this so well. And I will tell you that one of the main things that attracted me to wanting to kind of partner up with you, or be able to kind of like, I want to make a relationship with this person, was the fact that you played full out, right? And to that point in my journey, right, I'd been doing the Canfield stuff for a little bit. I'd been involved in a little thing. I enjoyed kind of being there, but I was always kind of like, how can I use this, right? How can I share this with somebody else? And I'd never actually played full out myself. And so when I showed up there and you were playing full out and everybody was like, let's play full out. I was like, oh, maybe I should try that. And I finally did. Right? It was like, whoa, holy, wow, the difference that happens there. So, because, there's a lot to be said about a mastermind, a lot to be said about all these success principles and all this other stuff. But at the end of the day, right, the number one principle is to take 100% responsibility. And I think part of that is what you put into things is what you get out of things. Now, like I said, I think from my vantage point, it feels like you just do this naturally and you're really good at it, but maybe talk to us a little bit about that. What does that feel like for you?
Well, I will say that I've grown into it. I think a lot of us have, grew up being told, not by my parents ever, but like by my teachers or friends, whatever, like you're too much, you're too loud, you cry too easy, you're obnoxious, all those kinds of things. And so I think a lot of that gets tamped down as we're growing up. And certainly when you get into the business world, well, you better be professional and straight-laced and, dot all your I's and cross all your T's and be appropriate and all those kinds of things. And I think playing full out does mean putting your whole self into it, but your whole self. And I think being okay with who I am has been a really long journey. But I do feel like recently I really have come into feeling like it's okay. It's okay that I'm crazy. It's okay that I'm loud. It's okay that I'm, the way I am. And I think the right people find you. Yeah. But you won't find your right people if you're not ever wholly yourself. So, and I will say playing full out brings you so much more satisfaction because it's you. Because, and people see that playing full out means being vulnerable. So, right. Because playing full out means, stepping up and asking the question. It means going first. It means you're going to do your speech. It means getting up on the stage in front of Jack Canfield. It means getting up in front of the stage, like on virtual boot camp with people like Kathleen Seeley and June Ryan and Mike Klein, who they've been doing this for years and years, or Coco, who's a professor and, is in front of people, daily. And that can be so intimidating, but putting yourself out there, one, gets so much reward back to you. Yes, from yourself, but people recognize that and applaud you and they're grateful to you and can be inspired or motivated by you. But I think playing full out just brings, again, it's like you can have accomplishment. Playing full out brings fulfillment, I think. To me, because it's, I'll give a work example because I know a lot of your listeners are professionals and they run their own companies. So in my role as CEO for AAOE, one of our things is our main event every year. We have a conference. It's 4 days. The team's there for a week and it is a big deal for us. It is, 6 to 8 concurrent sessions over 3-4 days. There are all these logistics. There's 1,000 people that come sometimes, and more our last meeting had 1,000 or so, maybe 1,100. You have a 40,000 square foot exhibit hall. You have all these people though. And as the CEO, I've always felt very pressured. I have to dress appropriately, wear heels. I have to, all those things. I have to, hello, how are you? And not be too crazy, which is, that's who I am. And I'm going to have fun. I'm going to work hard, but I'm also going to have fun.
Yes.
And but this last conference, and I've changed things over the years. So like I've made it a thing for our team to wear jeans and tennis shoes early on. I was like, why are we dressing up? Why do we have to wear skirts when we're on the floor packing and unpacking and moving things and all that kind of stuff? But at this last meeting, I wore crazy dresses that I loved. I actually was asked by my board to speak on the main stage and do a 5-minute presentation. And I did not wear a suit, a business suit. I wore a black dress with shiny gold stars all over it and a pair of white high tops with gold all over them. So, which again, I wouldn't have been comfortable to do, but all this work all this accomplishment brings self-confidence, self-esteem, self-worth. And then you realize, anybody that's against you, that's on them.
Yeah.
Doesn't have anything to do with me.
So powerful. Yes.
So why not be brave? Why not be the one that stands up in front of 500 people and gives your speech? If I would have failed, I still would have been on that stage. If I was worried that I would start crying, because I get freaked out to public speak. And so I make myself do it because it's important in my career. But it's like, it's a little anxiety inducing. But I thought, even if I get up there and I can't speak and I start crying and I get off the stage, at least I tried.
Yeah.
And that's, again, playing full out. Playing full out doesn't mean you're going to get everything you want every time either. Playing full out is taking a chance, taking a risk, trusting in yourself and the community you're in. And me doing that speech at my conference and all that. I mean, my mastermind, the mastermind you and I were in, helped me tremendously with that. Because guess what? There were times I was crying. There were times I was like, I'm canceling.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I remember that. You were like, "No, I'm not doing this."
Yeah,
like,
I was like, "I can't."
There you are.
Yeah, I was like, on top of everything else, I can't. Yeah, and you all were like, "We think you can.
Yeah.
We think you can."
Yeah. We think you could do this in your sleep, so just do it.
Right. So much support. So, I'm sorry. This is a really long story.
No, this is perfect story. Keep going. This is awesome. Yeah, I could listen to this all day. Well, okay. So while you pause for 1 second, though, I do want to make sure that I hit a point that you kind of shared. Because like I said, when I met you, right, you were playing full out as far as I could tell. And I was like, oh, that's just who she is. Right. And so I was like, oh, okay, well, that this is probably just who she is. It's super easy to her. But when you said early on that this was something you kind of grew into or you've kind of uncovered, right? So, and I believe a lot of that then based on what you've been sharing is, you kind of turbocharged that understanding of yourself through the mastermind, through kind of being able to be vulnerable, be open to people. And did you feel like that kind of turbocharged, maybe kind of gaining a better understanding of yourself or what your goals were or what, that kind of thing?
Oh, for sure. Absolutely, that turbocharged it. And I do think part of that, what turbocharged it as well, was an investment in myself. And I know it's hard. I know it is hard, but I feel like I can definitely say I've showed up more, higher, better in the masterminds that I'm paying for than the ones I'm not. So I just think that's how people are a little bit. It's like, you don't want that money to go to waste. Like you want to get the value out of it. You want to, and so I say, if that's what helps me get going a little better, then I'll pay. Yeah. But I think that's part of it. But I do think that having the mastermind, having the set schedule, having the support, and being able to connect with people like the office hours, like what we're offering as well, were so powerful to me to bring questions and be like, I'm stuck. Like I can't, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do at this point. I'm feeling stuck or depressed or sad, or you go through a life event and you're like, I'm not in the right mind to do this right now. I don't know what to do. And having that community to say, you know what, I've been through that, or something maybe even worse, or to another degree or whatever. And for them to say, here's what I did, and to get all those ideas of things that people have tried and true, rather than trying to find them on myself. Or, you know, frankly, sometimes a person's not even in a place to find something.
Yeah.
I just, you know, when I'm down, I just want to watch TV and eat. Like that's that's it. That's my thing, you know. But being in the mastermind, I would show up. I would go. And even if I just, you know, kind of showed up and reported out, it was still a little that it would help me over the hump a bit, and to help me keep going on that journey.
Yeah.
So yeah. And I love that. It was very powerful to be in those masterminds.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Awesome. Yeah, that's just incredible. And let's go back and talk about that investment thing that you mentioned there too, because what I'm learning and understanding. So one of the things that I've really kind of fallen in love with as I get to dive into success principles and all this other stuff is I want to start understanding like why I do the things I do. Right. What's going on with my brain, for example, right? Like I know I need to go exercise, or I know I need to do this thing, but yet, by gosh, my butt is on that couch binging another freaking Netflix show, you know, like what? And then, you know, the whole time I'm just beating myself up going, oh, gosh, why are you doing this to yourself? And, you know, I'm tired and yeah. So I think that the brain side of us, right? Our brain is, we think that we have control over our thoughts, but really it's our emotions that are what control us, right? So I've always heard people say this, you know, oh, well, we only use 5% of our brain, but the science has proven the reality is we use 100% of our brain. Our conscious only uses 5% of our brain. And the rest is being used by our subconscious, the emotions, the feelings, the fact that I can breathe and talk and look into a camera and think about my water at the same time, right? Right. So I guess what I wanted to kind of drill down a little deeper into for you too is how some of those things work with that investment side of things, right? Because like you said, you know, you have this desire to like, yeah, I really do want to make sure that I show up and play full out because I've invested, right? But we've invested that money, which is part of our safety mechanism. We want the resources, we want to hoard those types of things. So yeah, I mean, one of the things when you and I were putting together this Radical Goal Getters is we did discuss that, right? Like how much does this cost? What's right? You know, we don't want to make it about, you know, make it to where people can afford to achieve their goals. We want to just try to help as many people as we can. And you and I would both do it for free if we'd let each other, right? And, but at the same time, you know, we knew that we needed people to be invested in it too. And so anyhow, I know I've kind of gone all over the place with that whole thing, but pick out anything that you want to run with there and talk about it from your side. Yeah.
Well, so I think it's skin in the game. You got to have some skin in the game. And I know, like, I have a new director of membership who I love at AAOE. Yeah. And she really is against anything for free. No free trials, no free things, which is very different than me. I'm like, but if we give it to them for free, they'll try it and love it and pay. And she's like, well, one, you don't know that. But two, you're undervaluing what we are offering. Yeah. And if they get it for free, put on a webinar, put on a free webinar and put on a charged webinar. Who do you get more people to that come?
That actually show up.
Actual show ups to registrations. You will have way more to a paid because people have invested some of their money, something that's important to them. Yeah. And time is very important as well. But I think just putting some of that, having some skin in the game, I think is just so important in anything we do. And I'm sure everybody has an example of this. Say, how about the gym? You can go on Netflix and get every workout you want, any kind. You can get Pilates, yoga, weight training, calisthenics. You can get everything for free on YouTube. How many people actually use those programs? But if you pay for the gym.
I didn't even know they were there.
Right. Well,
I don't want to go look for that.
That's a personal example I'm giving you because I'm like, why am I paying for the gym? But it's because You're like, I used to do this with equipment. I'd get a treadmill and I'd say I'd spend money on the treadmill. And then I'd say, okay, today it cost me, I'll say $500 to use the treadmill because I used it once. On day 2, it only cost me $250 each time I used the treadmill. On day 3, I would do that but even after a while, I'm like, oh, who cares? The money's gone.
Free. Now it's going to just hold the clothes, right? Yeah.
Yes. And I think we've been taught a little bit that investing in ourselves is selfish. And it's not. If you think about, it's cliche, but I do like the commercials where they're like, this costs this and this costs this and this costs this, but this is priceless. And I feel like a mastermind is like in that category of it costs this, but your result is priceless.
Yeah.
Because where do I want to end up at the end of the year? Where am I going to get by myself? And where am I going to get with a group of like-minded people? Very different.
Yeah.
And I know that from experience. You couldn't have asked me this before. I mean, before I did a mastermind, I was like, also people call masterminds they call a lot of different things masterminds.
Yes. Yeah. It's a fancy buzzword these days. Yeah.
It is such a buzzword. And I think a lot of people also just when it should be called a master class, they call it a mastermind. That's not, that's different, but so I just wanted to talk about the investment piece because I think in a professional setting, a professional business, think about that. If you're selling something, are you going to give it away for free? Or is there value to what you're giving? Yeah. So
yeah, I love that. I love that. And you would also sit in there too. And I love where you're talking about the fact that we've been kind of taught by society or wherever that shows up from, right? And that investing in ourselves is selfish, right? Wanting for ourselves is selfish. I would almost, no, in fact, not almost. Let me remove the word almost. I would argue that the opposite of that is actually true. That if we're not investing in ourselves, then we're not able to give of ourselves the fullest amount that we can give. We're not able to, play full out, right? And if we're not playing full out for ourselves, then we're certainly not going to play full out for the people around us that need us, right? And it's that kind of idea of giving from an empty cup. You can't do that. Right. But if we don't make that choice to invest in ourselves first, then I'm not going to be able to show up for my wife, for my family, my son, whatever that is, for my community, for the people that that look up to me in a way that is going to be of value to them. And so now I'm doing them a disservice. So anyhow, I get way up on that soapbox because I just find it so funny that people will spend all sorts of money on the latest, greatest pair of tennis shoes or whatever toy or gadget or, whatever.
Or DoorDashing Starbucks.
Yeah.
I mean, think about the fees just for a DoorDash, one DoorDash meal. I mean, there's so much and is that really serving you? Yeah. Is it really what you even wanted to eat? Is it even and again, talk about a moment of pleasure and then the guilt or, but and I'm not judging what people are spending their money on. No, for sure. It's more like, what do you want though? What do you want? Yeah. And I think that, and I love your talking about how it does level us up to be able to do more because masterminds, I've been in a mastermind that's been the person's concentrated on their family or on their relationship, their kids, on weight, on wellness, on spirituality, on getting out in nature, on hobbies, like rebuilding their hobbies up, reading, stopping so much social media or television. I mean, masterminds are not necessarily just for your professional life. There's so much you can do in a mastermind, and absolutely the turnaround goal I think is so awesome. But you can also, of course, say, you know what, while I'm doing this big turnaround goal, I'd also like to walk 15 minutes 3 times a week. Absolutely. Just get some nature, right? So you don't have to think of one thing at a time. Yeah. So yeah. Forward progress. I mean, we're going to help you, figure out what that, what your North Star, so to speak, is probably best for you. But like you said, pick up that other stuff along the way and let's, right. Oh, I love that. That's so true. So true. All right. One last thing that I've already taken 45 minutes of your time here, Addie. So, but I want to touch one more point. Yeah.
Okay. And I know we talked about this a little bit already, but go a little bit deeper with the whole concept of accountability and what that's meant to you, and maybe even carry that into how you see that working inside of Radical Goal Getters.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think people confuse accountability with policing someone or being policed.
Yeah.
So, where it's like, well, I don't want to be making somebody do something, or I don't want somebody to make me do something, right? Yeah. Either way. Yeah. I think we all have a little bit of that when somebody tells you to do something and it's like, I'm really not doing it now.
Yeah.
So,
the way to get me to do the other. Yeah.
Right, exactly. And so one of the things I really love is the rule of 5, which, we've certainly, you and I have, morph that into rule of 3, rule of 2, rule of 1. It really can be anything.
Whatever it needs to be. Yeah.
The original rule of 5, it was to every morning set 5 things that would to do that day to help you move forward to your goal.
Yeah.
And that looks different for different people. So like I have my full-time job, and then I do little radical changes, evenings, weekends, when I have time. Yeah. So my rule of 5 might have a couple things that I really want to move forward for my full-time job, and some things that I want to move forward for little radical changes. Also, when I was writing the book, that my rule of 5 was write 5 minutes, write 5 minutes, write 5 minutes, 5 times. Yep. So, I would write almost 30 minutes, but as long as I did it, I had my rule of 5 done. Sometimes it's rule of 2 because I have 2. I have a full-time job and the little radical changes. I definitely can't do 5 things every day for little radical changes. Mm-hmm. So I just don't have the capacity for that. And I know that. Sure. And so mine might be 1 thing. But so I think the difference in a mastermind of that accountability is, again, sharing what you'd like to accomplish. And then, so say I'm going to do 3 things. I might say that in the asynchronous chat and say, or, in the group, wherever, I might say, today, these are my 3 things. And then the next day I can say, I got 1 thing done. You don't have to explain either. Like, we all live a life. We all know things happen.
Sure.
So you might say, I got the 1 thing done. I'm recommitting to these 2 things, and I'm going to add this thing. And it can vary every day, how many you do or whatever. That's totally up to each person. There's no judgment. And again, it's not policing. So I am going to ask, if we both are in the mastermind, if the commitments aren't done, we're going to talk about that. We're going to say, what do you think got in your way? Or what kind of ideas do you need?
What's the learning experience is what I always go to, right? I don't care why per se. I want to know what you can learn from that. Yeah.
Right. There's no judgment and no explaining. So I think that's critical. And that's where accountability comes in. And I also learned that accountability is where self-esteem comes from. Ooh. So the more you hold yourself accountable and you follow through, you build your self-esteem just by checking off your own list.
That's so awesome.
Right. Wow. I love that.
Yeah.
So that was a big thing to me, to learn that. And then your peers in your mastermind, they're accountable to themselves and to you, and you are to yourself and to them. And so it's kind of like I hate to say even like reporting out, because that even puts a little bit more weight there, but it is a group. It's like a group project, but everybody's working on their part. I don't know if you've all that's kind of a meme. Like if you did a group project in school ever, I did online bachelor's degree and group projects, and it was always my project because people don't that's the joke, right? Is you have 5 people in the group and it's one person's work. Yeah. But in the mastermind, we're all working our own projects and encouraging and supporting each other. So part of that accountability is providing ideas, is providing resources, is providing connections, any of those types of things. And I think, again, rather than somebody saying to you, why didn't you do that? Or did you do that? You're just reporting out on your own. Nobody's going to come into the chat and say, Erin, you didn't report out.
Yeah.
We might ask you that at some point, or we might say, hey, haven't seen you, Erin. Hope you're doing
just
well.
Checking in on you. Yeah.
Exactly.
It's from a place of love and respect. Yeah.
Exactly. And I think that's the difference. That's accountability versus policing that I think sometimes a spouse feels like they have to do, or a parent with a child feels that they have to do, or a leader with a staff person, and vice versa, right? That can go either way in any of those situations.
Sure.
But to me, that I don't know if that's, I don't know if you wrap that up, but
that's perfect. Yeah.
What I'm thinking there.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's so important that you make that distinction too. I've never I mean, I understand that, but I don't think I've ever kind of thought that through at that level. And I love that you explained that at that depth. So thank you for that. That's pretty
Yeah,
awesome.
sure.
Cool. Well, okay. So Addie, I don't know. I think the thing that makes this really exciting for me, this Radical Goal Getters program, is that you and I definitely have a lot of similar passions, but we're also very different. Right? We go about things very differently.
Yep.
And so I think that brings this really nice kind of yin and yang, so to speak. So for me, I want to just challenge people. I'm going to go, hey, why are you not doing this? Right? What's holding you back? Or, like, do you think that you can't achieve these goals? I would challenge you to say, okay, do that. Go sign up for this thing, be part of this. And it doesn't work for you and you put in the work. Okay. Then I'll pay you back out of my own pocket. Perfect.
Oh yeah.
Right. I mean,
that's
the kind of person that I am. Like, I want to challenge people at that level. You're typically a little more delicate. so how would you challenge people?
It's a good question. I really like how you challenge people, actually, though. So I think I would say you have goals that you want to do. You have dreams that you want to accomplish, or goals to accomplish, dreams that you want to bring into a reality. And how would you like a cheerleader?
Yeah.
Like, I was talking to somebody about this the other day, and she has stuff she's going through in life, personal, professional. And I was like, well, if you want a cheerleader, this is the place to do it, because how can you not get more done with a cheerleader? And I think that's what we're very good at, is the guidance, the facilitation, and the cheerleading.
Yeah.
And so if you have things you want to do and you're not getting them done, which we all have that. I mean, we all have stuff that we're not getting done on our own. I know, right? And I think that's, and like anybody I talk to is this, we all have these lists. We all have these dreams. And I that's what I talked about at my conference this last April, was I put together a vision board and I finished it. Like, who finishes a vision board? And they tell you, right? Like, I have to create a new one, because
that's awesome.
But that's what, and I did it having cheerleaders. I did it having accountability. I did it having a community. It just makes that's all stuff I didn't even think I could do. And none of it had I started before I did the vision board. So it's not like even I was partway through and then let me throw this on my vision board. No. So I just think it's, I don't know, I lost my train of thought there, but I just think I love the cheerleader idea. So it's a challenge. Absolutely. And it's, how would you like to do it and have a lot of fun? Yeah. How would you like to enjoy the process of reaching a goal instead of fighting with yourself the whole time?
Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Because I think we all think, right? Like, we don't want to make that investment. We don't want to let go of our hard-earned money. We don't want to let go of that time, right? Oh, that's a time commitment too, Aaron. I don't know about that. Yada, yada, yada. I know all the stories because I've said them all, right? So this is not like I'm talking down to anybody here. This is like me talking to the other side of my brain is what's going on. And what I've really come to understand is that I don't care how much willpower I think I have. It's not happening unless I intentionally do the things that need to happen, like get some accountability, like become part of a mastermind program, like have specific goals and all this other stuff. I find this really interesting, Addie. I don't know if you've ever heard of this before, and now that you're doing this with me, you'll probably hear it a lot. So if I tell the story more than once, it's okay. But there's this thing called Quitter's Day. And it's the day that they've done these studies that most people give up on their New Year's resolution. So do you have a guess at what that day is on average for people?
I'll say February 20th.
Wow. You see, you are much more gentle. I've had people say January 2nd. So here's what it is, though. And this continue. They keep doing this. It's like some app where they keep track of some of this stuff, and they keep doing this every year. And it still hangs in there around the second week in January.
That's it?
That's it. So if that's true, right, which, again, they've got the data to back this up. For most of us, sheer willpower alone will get us about 2 weeks down the road, and then we're just back to stasis, right? So Wow, what you want to get something done, then let's forget this whole willpower. I'm gonna grind myself, I'm gonna hustle. I can't stand that hustle thing, right? But just become a radical goal getter, and things will be different. So
it will be different. Guaranteed, as we said.
Yes.
That's so sad though. How many dreams don't get?
I know.
Yes, the first 2 weeks.
Yeah. Well, we're going to change that though. We're on a mission to change that. So we just put our stake in the ground here.
Yep.
All right, Addie. Well, anything that we missed?
I don't think so. I'm excited. Awesome. Thank you. Great You're questions. Welcome. Great conversation as always.
I had a blast. I could do this all day, but
I know, me too.
Yeah. Well, we'll try again on Wednesday. So if you guys haven't heard, Addie and I are kind of doing a program together on Wednesdays called RGG Live, and stands for Radical Goal Getters. That's as creative as I got. So, and so tune in 12:30 Central Time, 1:30 Eastern Time next Wednesday, and Addie and I will be back to talk about more stuff and bring in whatever you guys want us to talk about. We'll talk just about anything. Obviously, we have a passion for success principles and that whole thing, and for helping people achieve their goals. And so, if left to our own druthers, that's what we're going to talk about. But we'll talk about anything. So, all right, Addie. Well, you have an amazing rest of your Saturday, and I will talk to you on Wednesday.
Thank you. You too. Can't wait.
Bye.
Bye.